In this lesson, you will practice real English through a calm, realistic story. By the end of this video, you will understand a complete story about a travel problem. Learn useful words and sentences, and feel more confident listening to English in real-life situations. Welcome to English Through Stories. The story is about two people, Sarah and Mark, who travel to a small town and face an unexpected problem on the way. Listen carefully, relax, and stay with me, because this simple story has more meaning than it seems.
Sarah looked out of the window as the train slowed down. She was traveling to a small coastal town for a short vacation. She had planned this trip for months. She wanted a quiet place, good food, and long walks near the sea. Everything felt fine when she left home early that morning. Next to her, Mark was checking his phone again.
"I still don't have any signal,"
he said.
"That's strange."
Sarah smiled.
"It's okay.
She said.
We won't need the internet for a few days."
Mark nodded, but he still looked worried. This was his first long trip in years, and he liked to have everything under control. When the train stopped, an announcement played over the speakers. The voice was calm, but not very clear. Sarah could not understand all the words. She only heard something about a delay and another train. People started to stand up and look around. A woman asked the conductor a question, but Sarah could not hear the answer. Mark stood up.
"I think there is a problem.
He said.
The train may not go all the way to our town."
Sarah felt a small knot in her stomach.
"What do you mean?"
She asked.
"I heard the word cancelled,
Mark replied.
but I'm not sure."
They got off the train and walked onto the platform. The station was small and quiet. There were only a few shops and a cafe. A group of tourists was speaking loudly near the ticket office. Sarah and Mark joined the line. When it was their turn, Mark spoke first.
"Excuse me,
He said.
is the train to Seabrook cancelled?"
The woman behind the counter looked tired.
Yes,
She said.
there is a problem on the tracks. No trains will go there today.
Sarah felt disappointed.
"So what can we do?"
She asked.
You can take a bus,
The woman answered.
but the next one leaves in 2 hours.
2 hours felt like a long time. Sarah checked the time. It was already late afternoon. If they waited, they would arrive at night. Mark stepped aside and took a deep breath.
"This is not going well.
He said quietly.
Our hotel is expecting us before 8.
Sarah tried to stay calm.
"Let's think.
She said.
We still have some options."
They walked outside the station and sat on a bench. The air was warm, and the sun was low in the sky. For a moment, they watched cars pass by.
"I can try to rent a car,
Mark said.
but I don't know if there is a rental place here."
Sarah opened her bag and took out her phone. She had no signal either.
"No internet.
She said.
We need to ask someone."
They went back inside and ordered coffee at the cafe. The man behind the counter smiled at them.
"You look a bit lost."
He said.
"We are.
Sarah replied honestly.
Our train was cancelled and we need to get to Seabrook."
The man nodded.
"That happens sometimes.
He said.
You can take the bus, but there is another option.
Mark leaned forward.
"What option?"
He asked.
There is a local driver.
The man said.
He takes people to nearby towns. It's not official, but many travelers use his service."
Sarah and Mark looked at each other.
"Is it safe?"
Sarah asked. The man smiled again.
"Yes.
He said.
His name is John. He is very reliable."
10 minutes later, they were standing next to a small blue car. A man in his 50s waved at them.
"You must be Sarah and Mark."
He said.
"I'm John."
During the drive, John told them stories about the area. The road was narrow, but beautiful. Trees lined the sides, and the air smelled fresh.
"I'm glad we didn't give up."
Sarah said quietly to Mark. Mark smiled for the first time in hours.
"Me too.
He said.
Sometimes problems lead to better experiences."
When they arrived at the hotel, it was already dark. The lights were on, and the place looked warm and welcoming. Sarah stepped out of the car and stretched. She felt tired, but relieved.
"We made it.
She said. Mark nodded.
And tomorrow we can finally relax."
Sarah looked at the sea in the distance and smiled. The trip had started with a problem, but it was already teaching her something important. Sometimes, The journey matters as much as the plan.
Now, let's look at some important words and expressions from the story. Listen carefully and take your time. First word, signal. Signal means a phone connection. When you have signal, you can use the internet or make calls. In the story, Sarah and Mark do not have any signal, so they cannot use their phones. Next word, cancelled. Cancelled means something will not happen as planned. In the story, the train to Seabrook is cancelled. This means the train will not go there that day. Next word, delay. A delay means something is late. It does not start at the planned time. Sarah hears about a delay in the announcement at the station. Next word, platform. A platform is the place at a train station where people wait for the train. Sarah and Mark walk onto the platform when they leave the train. Next expression, ticket office. The ticket office is the place where you buy tickets or ask for travel information. Sarah and Mark go to the ticket office to ask about the train. Next expression, take a deep breath. To take a deep breath means to breathe in slowly and deeply. People do this to relax or stay calm. Mark takes a deep breath when he feels stressed. Next word, option. An option is a choice. When you have options, you can choose between different things. Sarah says they still have some options. Next word, reliable. Reliable describes a person you can trust. A reliable person does what they say they will do. John is reliable, so Sarah and Mark feel safe with him. Last expression, give up. To give up means to stop trying because something feels too difficult. Sarah is glad they did not give up, even when the trip became hard. Take a short moment and think about these words again before we continue. Now, let's look at some useful sentences from the story. These sentences are very common in daily life. First sentence, I think there is a problem. This sentence means you believe something is wrong. You use it when you notice an issue, but you are not completely sure yet. Next sentence, so what can we do? This sentence asks for ideas or solutions. We use it when a plan changes, and we need to decide the next step. Next sentence, we still have some options. This means there are still choices available. We use this sentence to stay positive and calm in a difficult situation. Next sentence, that happens sometimes. This sentence means the situation is normal and not unusual. We use it to comfort someone, or to say that problems are part of life. Last sentence, I'm glad we didn't give up. This sentence means you feel happy that you continued trying. We use it after a difficult situation ends in a good way. Listen to these sentences again in your mind. They are simple, but very useful in real life. Now, let's look at two simple grammar patterns from the story. We will focus on how they are used, not on grammar rules. First pattern, talking about finished past events. In the story, many things already happened, so we talk about them in the past. For example, the train stopped. They arrived at the hotel. We use this form to say what happened before now. The action is finished. This is very common when telling a story or talking about past experiences. Now, the second pattern, talking about thoughts, feelings, and general ideas. We use this when we talk about what we think, how we feel, or what is usually true. For example, that happens sometimes. He likes to have everything under control. These sentences are not about one moment in the past. They talk about how people feel, think, or act in general. Both patterns are very important. They help you tell stories clearly and talk about real life in simple English. Let's look at Sarah and Mark's story one more time, but this time without the subtitles.
Sarah looked out of the window as the train slowed down. She was traveling to a small coastal town for a short vacation. She had planned this trip for months. She wanted a quiet place, good food, and long walks near the sea. Everything felt fine when she left home early that morning. Next to her, Mark was checking his phone again.
I still don't have any signal.
He said.
That's strange.
Sarah smiled.
It's okay.
She said.
We won't need the internet for a few days.
Mark nodded, but he still looked worried. This was his first long trip in years, and he liked to have everything under control. When the train stopped, an announcement played over the speakers. The voice was calm, but not very clear. Sarah could not understand all the words. She only heard something about a delay and another train. People started to stand up and look around. A woman asked the conductor a question, but Sarah could not hear the answer. Mark stood up.
I think there is a problem.
He said.
The train may not go all the way to our town.
Sarah felt a small knot in her stomach.
What do you mean?
She asked.
I heard the word cancelled,
Mark replied.
but I'm not sure.
They got off the train and walked onto the platform. The station was small and quiet. There were only a few shops and a cafe. A group of tourists was speaking loudly near the ticket office. Sarah and Mark joined the line. When it was their turn, Mark spoke first.
Excuse me,
He said.
is the train to Seabrook cancelled?
The woman behind the counter looked tired.
Yes,
She said.
there is a problem on the tracks. No trains will go there today.
Sarah felt disappointed.
So what can we do?
She asked.
You can take a bus,
The woman answered.
but the next one leaves in 2 hours.
2 hours felt like a long time. Sarah checked the time. It was already late afternoon. If they waited, they would arrive at night. Mark stepped aside and took a deep breath.
This is not going well.
He said quietly.
Our hotel is expecting us before 8.
Sarah tried to stay calm.
Let's think.
She said.
We still have some options.
They walked outside the station and sat on a bench. The air was warm and the sun was low in the sky. For a moment, they watched cars pass by.
I can try to rent a car,
Mark said.
but I don't know if there is a rental place here.
Sarah opened her bag and took out her phone. She had no signal either.
No internet.
She said.
We need to ask someone.
They went back inside and ordered coffee at the cafe. The man behind the counter smiled at them.
You look a bit lost.
He said.
We are.
Sarah replied honestly.
Our train was cancelled and we need to get to Seabrook.
The man nodded.
That happens sometimes.
He said.
You can take the bus, but there is another option.
Mark leaned forward.
What option?
He asked.
There is a local driver.
The man said.
He takes people to nearby towns. It's not official, but many travelers use his service.
Sarah and Mark looked at each other.
Is it safe?
Sarah asked. The man smiled again.
Yes.
He said.
His name is John. He is very reliable.
10 minutes later, they were standing next to a small blue car. A man in his 50s waved at them.
You must be Sarah and Mark.
He said.
I'm John.
During the drive, John told them stories about the area. The road was narrow, but beautiful. Trees lined the sides, and the air smelled fresh.
I'm glad we didn't give up.
Sarah said quietly to Mark. Mark smiled for the first time in hours.
Me too.
He said.
Sometimes problems lead to better experiences.
When they arrived at the hotel, it was already dark. The lights were on, and the place looked warm and welcoming. Sarah stepped out of the car and stretched. She felt tired, but relieved.
We made it.
She said. Mark nodded.
And tomorrow we can finally relax.
Sarah looked at the sea in the distance and smiled. The trip had started with a problem, but it was already teaching her something important. Sometimes, the journey matters as much as the plan.
You did a great job listening today. Take a moment and think about how much you understood this time. Did the story feel clearer than before? Stories like this help you learn real English in a natural way. You don't need to understand every word. Understanding the meaning is already a big success. Now, think about this question. Which part of the story was easiest for you to understand? You can share your answer in the comments if you like. If this lesson helped you, a like really helps the channel. And you're welcome to subscribe for more stories and lessons. Thank you for learning with me today. Keep listening, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next lesson. This was English Through Stories.